Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. Today we are back with another video for technical interview, and today's topic is singleton design pattern. So in our last video tutorial we have seen in detail that what is a factory design pattern, what is the real-time use case of the factory design pattern, and when we should follow the factory design pattern in our real life. So today in this video we will be concentrating on the second design pattern, and that is the singleton design pattern. So let's start with today's video on discussing the second most important design pattern for a technical interview, and that is the singleton design pattern. So just like our previous video, over here we will be discussing in detail that what is a singleton design pattern and when should you use the singleton design pattern for designing your application. So let's start with today's video. But before that, if you like this video, don't forget to like and share this video. And if you are new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you never miss an update from my side and you are always ready for your next interview. So let's start with today's video. So you must be wondering why I am watching the Avenger Endgame in the middle of the tutorial. Because you will be surprised to know that there is a connection between the singleton design pattern and the way we are watching this movie over the internet. So if you see carefully over here, I am watching this movie on one of our OTT platform, and that is Hotstar. So if you see that right now I am logging over here using one of my Hotstar account. But if I want to log in to another browser, let's take an example like Firefox, and if I try to watch this video using the same account, at that time Hotstar will throw me an error that your account is requesting for more than one video, because Hotstar at a particular instance of time only allows a single user to stream a single video over the internet. So this is basically the main concept behind the singleton design pattern, which means that using a particular account, if from multiple devices we are trying to log into our Hotstar account and we are trying to refer to a particular video, the Hotstar backend code will not allow to do so, because over there they are maintaining a singleton architecture, which means that for a particular account they will provide a single streaming API at a particular instance. So this is basically a real life example of the singleton pattern. So now since you got a basic concept of the singleton design pattern, let's now go into the detailed analysis of what is a singleton pattern, how we should implement a singleton pattern, and what are the advantages of using a singleton pattern in our design architecture. So let's first start with some basic theoretical definition. After that we will go into the implementation part so that it will be much easier for you to understand the concept. So by definition, a singleton design pattern is one of the simplest design pattern in Java, and it is widely used and created in different applications nowadays. So this singleton patterns comes under the creational pattern because it provides the best way of creating an object within our application. And the singleton pattern ensures that at a particular instance, only a single instance should get created for a particular class, and all the other classes which want to instantiate the singleton class will get a single reference or the single instance of a class throughout the application. So there are two ways by which we can implement a singleton design pattern. One is the early initialization and number two is the lazy initialization. So what is this early and the lazy initialization? We will discuss in detail when we will be implementing the singleton design pattern. So let's now understand that why and when we should use a singleton design pattern into our application. So singleton design pattern is used where only a single instance of a class is required to control the action throughout the execution, which means that a singleton class does not allow multiple instances of its own class. So at a particular time, only a single object or the instance of a singleton class can exist within and throughout the application. So mostly a singleton design pattern is followed when we are dealing with some of the basic activities such as logging, caching, thread pooling, and database connection. And one more advantage of using a singleton design pattern is it saves the space within the application. For example, whenever we are creating a mobile application, at that time memory is very much critical. And over there, if we are creating multiple instances of any object repeatedly within our application, then you will see that within a few minutes or so, the application that we have created will crash within our phone because of the lack of the space and the memory issue. So at that time, the concept of the singleton design pattern becomes very crucial. So I hope this clarifies that why we need a singleton design pattern into our application. So let's go through the UML design of the singleton pattern so that it will be much more clearer. So from this UML design, you can see that within a singleton class, there will be only a single reference of the singleton class, and the access modifier of the singleton instance should be private. Similarly, the constructor who is responsible for creating and initializing this reference should also be of type private, because in case of the singleton design pattern, we are not allowing some other class, for example class A, B and C, to create an object of the singleton class. So over here with this pattern, we have intentionally made the constructor of this class as private, so that by anyhow you cannot create the instance of this class outside this environment. So I hope this makes some sense to you that what is a singleton class and how we should create a singleton design pattern within our application. Now to make the things much more clear, let's start with implementing the singleton design pattern so that it will be damn easy for you to understand the logic and the working principle of the singleton design pattern. So let's start with the implementation of the singleton design pattern using the Java code. But before that, if you like this video, don't forget to like and share this video. And if you are new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you never miss an update from my side and you are always ready for your next interview. So let's start with the implementation. So to give a demonstration of how a singleton design pattern works, let's start with the implementation over here. So let's over here try to recreate the scenario of the Hotstar application. So over here let's create a class called as Hotstar. So in real Hotstar application, there must be hundred of classes that are involved in streaming the movies over the internet. But over here we will be implementing one of the aspect over here so that we can give a demonstration of the singleton design pattern. So let's create a class over here called as singleton, which will be responsible for streaming the data, that is for streaming the video for different users. So let's create a class called as singleton over here. And as per our definition of the singleton class, you can see that we have to create an instance of the singleton class. And over here we have to create a private constructor to initialize the singleton class. So let's start with the implementation of one by one. And let's see what are the impacts of each and everything over here on the singleton design pattern. So over here you can see that within this singleton class, we have declared an instance of the singleton class called as instance. And over here we have provided an access modifier as private, because the access to this instance should reside within this class called as singleton. And over here you can see we have given the keyword static over here to implement this fact that a single instance of this class should reside within the application. Now let's create a private constructor over here so that none of the class outside the singleton class can create an instance of the singleton object. Now the question is, if both the constructor as well the instance of this singleton class is private, then how the Hotstar class can create an instance of this singleton class? So to allow the Hotstar to access this singleton instance, we have to create one more method over here, and that should be the public method, which will actually give the access to this instance variable. So we will create a method called as getInstance. So now let's understand what we have done over here. So what actually we have done over here is we are first checking within this getInstance class that whether this instance has already been initialized or not. And if this instance has not been initialized before, then we are creating the instantiation over here. Otherwise, if the instantiation of this instance has already been done, we are just returning the existence instance from this method. Now let's create another method over here which will be actually responsible for streaming the video over the internet. Let's call it as a streaming API. So this is a dummy method which actually performs nothing. Just over here we will provide a sysout telling that you are watching a video. So thus over here we have constructed our singleton design class over here. Now let's see how the hoster will implement and follow this singleton design pattern within its class definition so that it only allows a single user to watch a single video at a particular instance. So let's take an example that a particular moment a user called as John tried to log into our hoster application and watching a particular video. So to provide the access of this streaming API to John, what we have to do, first we have to create an instance of this singleton class. So let's first try to create the instance of this singleton class in our general conventional way. So over here you can see that if I am trying to create an object of the singleton class, I am not able to create, rather I am getting an error over here that this singleton class is not visible from here. Because of the reason I have made the constructor over here as private. So practically there are no way by which outside this singleton class I can create a singleton object over here. So the only way we can create an object of this singleton class is by asking for the instance of this singleton class by using the method getInstance. And to get the instance of the singleton class, what we have to do, we have to refer to the singleton class and we have to call the getInstance class over here. But the only way we can get the access to this singleton method if we also make this class as static. Because over here we are trying to call a non-static block from a static block, which is not allowed by Java framework. So what we have to do, we have to also make this thing as static. And once we have made this function as static, you can see we can easily call the getInstance method from this hoster class. So right now for the user John, we got the instance of this singleton class. Now easily right now John can watch a movie over the internet. And for that what we have to do, we have to call our streaming API, that is object.streaming_API. And thus John can successfully log into our application and can watch a video over the internet. Now to make this demo more easy to understand, what I will do, I will provide a sysout statement over here so that it will be easy for you to understand that when an object is getting created over here. So let's provide a sysout over here and let's provide the value that the object got created. So let's now run this program and let's see whether we are getting any error or not. So over here you can see we are not getting any error. What is happening is we have created an instance for the user John and over here John is watching a movie over the internet. Let's now take an example. Just the way I did is using the same credential of the John, another user, let's take example Sam, wants to watch the same movie over the internet from different application. So what will happen when the second user will try to log in using the same credential, we have to create a second instance of this singleton class. And we have to also provide the streaming API for the second user, and that is Sam. So right now if I run this program, you will see that though we are creating two instances over here for both Sam and John, only the single instance of this singleton account is getting created. So let's click on run to demonstrate that. So over here you can see that though we have instantiated two times, over here the single account got created and we can easily identify that this Sam and John are nothing but the same user using our hoster service. So over here, though both of them are trying to watch the same movie together, we can put a separate logic over here so that we can restrict the user to do so. But that is out of scope right now. So what is the main thing that we have to see over here? That even though we are trying to instantiate the singleton class multiple number of times, over this whole application there is only one instance of this singleton class, because this singleton class is getting generated only for once across the entire application. So this is the basic way of implementing a singleton architecture for a particular user. But this simple implementation of this singleton application will fail to serve its purpose in some of the use cases. And one of the primary use cases at which this singleton's concept will fail is during the time of multi-threading. So let's demonstrate that what is the problem that will happen during the time of multi-threading. Because during the time of multi-threading, if number of threads from the main class if trying to create the singleton object simultaneously together, then it might happen that two or more instances of this singleton class will get generated within the application, which will break our singleton architecture. So let's see how we can restrict that by doing a small modification into our code. So let's first see what is the problem that will happen if we are implementing a multi-threading over here. So if you are not familiar with the multi-threading, do not worry, just see the code, you will get to understand what is the actual motive or the use case we are trying to solve over here. So let's create the first thread called as thread 1. So over here I have created our first thread called as T1. Let's duplicate over here and create one more thread called as T2. And within this run method, that is the main body of the thread, we are actually doing the same thing, that is we are trying to invoke the streaming API over here. So what we'll do, we will try to create an object of the singleton class and we will try to invoke the streaming API from here. So now if I try to run the code, it might happen that at a particular instance, the singleton class will get generated multiple number of times. So let's see whether we can recreate the scenario or not. It might not happen on a single run. We have to keep running the application until we see that type of issue. So over here you can see for the first run it got successfully ran and only a single instance of the singleton class has been generated. So this is not a problem. Let's run few more times to see whether we can create multiple instances of the singleton class. So over here you can see that after a couple of runs, we have found the issue over here that at a particular instance, though we have tried to maintain the singleton architecture, but over here two instances of a singleton class got created. Because of the reason the way we have created or instantiated our singleton class is not thread safe. So we have to make this class as thread safe so that even in case of multi-threading, the singleton class holds its behavior across the application. And to make it thread safe, what we have to do, we have to use the feature of Java, and that is over here we have to give a keyword called as synchronized. So what this synchronized method actually do is it acts like a monitor for this method, which means that until and unless a single thread is not done with the execution of this complete statement, another thread cannot enter within this block, and in this way we can make the singleton class as thread safe. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Now if I try to even run this application thousands of times, only a single instance of this object will get created over here. So there are plenty more ways by which you can also create the singleton class. So one of the disadvantage of this way of implementation is this synchronized method is actually a bit expensive, because though we are creating a single instance of the class, but we are calling this getInstance method multiple number of times over here, which is making this operation a bit expensive. So the most optimized way by which you can create a singleton class if we follow the architecture, that is double check locking. And how that can be done, I will be giving the complete code in the description below. So feel free to go through all this code so that you can easily understand that how a singleton design pattern is implemented within our application. So hopefully you guys have thoroughly understand that what is a singleton class, why we need a singleton design pattern within our application, what are the real-time use cases of the singleton application, and how we can implement the singleton design pattern using our Java code. So if you have liked this video, don't forget to like and share with your friends. And if you are new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you never miss an update from my side and you are always ready for your next interview. So let's move to the next video of our design pattern series. See you on the next video. Thank you.